Things start out simply enough. A stolen ship is being pursued by Star Furies from the Black Omega Squadron, as if that name could not be more ominous without putting Kitten Strangler in there somewhere. And then inexplicably the transport gives off a glow and suddenly the other ships are just gone. Like I said, nothing to see here. Let's move on. Eventually the ship shows up and docks at Babylon 5, ending the teaser and moving us into the episode proper, which is about the Psi Corps, and so naturally will involve Talia a great deal. In fact, she starts out by explaining that it's more about not picking up thoughts than picking them up when you're a telepath, although some thoughts are too loud to be ignored. Like some people. Representing the Corps is none other than Bester and Kelsey. They're here to see Sinclair, although we can only deduce this because they don't say anything to anybody. They just look at you and other people fill in the other half of the conversation. Sinclair does not take kindly to that, though, and tells them to stop poking around in his head and talk like normal people, who like to dress like the SS, I mean. This kind of thing is actually against the rules, the Psi thing, not the dressing. But as Psi cops, they are permitted to do crap like this that normally would not be allowed in order to help them track down rogue telepaths, because in the course of your duties, it's important to be a dick as much as possible. Also, Bester says that this rogue is particularly dangerous. And he's right. We see this guy, who was from the transport ship at the beginning, is renting a room at that very moment. Doesn't he know that Airbnb is a threat to the foundation of our society? I hope they catch him before he rents again. As if they didn't have enough problems. They built a space station in an earthquake zone. What were they thinking? In the B-plot, Catherine is meeting with a representative from Gigantocorp, a member of Hugo Conglomeration, to talk about an exploration deal, Sigma 957. This is a pretty big deal for her, but it comes with a catch. Not tell anybody, including Sinclair, what's going on. They don't want anybody getting there before they can stake their claim to the valuable minerals that they think are there. And the catch comes with a bonus snag. Sigma 957 is in a contested area of space, so to go there, they'll also need permission from a third party, and that's Jakar. Oh, this is not a good day to be an independent explorer. Bester explains that the guy they're looking for is named Ironheart, and that's why they brought Talia in here, because he was her instructor, with a rating of P10. Would have been higher, but he missed one of his mortgage payments, and they really ding you for that. Bester and Kelsey are P12s, someone to keep an eye on all the rest. Metaphorically speaking, of course. They say that Ironheart is on the run because he's selling strategic information about Earth Force to other governments, which is what makes him so dangerous, enough that they're going to scan Talia to see if she had any contact with him.
Thoughts. The process is not pleasant. You may stay or leave.
We'll stay. Don't want to draw this out. I'm sure you want to get back to your coffin. The scan reveals that she's telling the truth, and also that's about as much fun as getting your teeth drilled. But if she finds Ironheart, she has to let them know right away. In the hallway, she finds Ironheart and decides not to tell them right away. He insists that there's more going on here than what they're saying, and that millions of lives are on the line. All he wants is a chance to explain things. They're rather complicated. And speaking of which, the thing with Jakar. Catherine believes that he's telling her not to go as a way to get to Sinclair, but he insists that his warnings are genuine. Sigma 957 is not safe.
Let me pass on to you the one thing I've learned about this place. No one here is exactly what he appears.
Especially that hooker in Grey 12. That third breast is just a prosthetic. Well, Catherine is not going to listen. She'll just go over Jakar's head to her own contacts to get the permission she needs, thinking this is just a spiteful attempt to stop anyone else from using a planet that they don't have the means of exploiting themselves. So while she's heading off to her doom, Ironheart explains to Talia what's really going on, in his plot, I mean. The Psi Corps was experimenting with making more powerful telepaths. Since the more powerful the telepath is, the more powerful defenses that they can erect, and more powerful probes that they can send out. So leveling everybody up would be a good idea. So they tried this new procedure out on Ironheart, and it worked a little too well. It allowed him to see through the mental blocks of those running things to understand what's really going on here. The goal is not telepathy, but telekinesis. This is an exceptionally rare ability. Only about 1 in every 10 million people have it, and half of them are insane. No doubt lying back in bed making things spin around the room and saying, "Your mother sucks cocks in hell." But wanting telekinesis isn't a bad thing. Things like zero-G construction techniques, or possibly even serving as a shield could be positive benefits. Or pulling your lightsaber into your hand if you're caught by a wampa. But this is the Psi Corps, so it's for evil. They want to use it for things like assassinations, pinching the carotid artery so that they can kill the victim without a trace. Or maybe finally get back at all those bullies by giving them wedgies with just a thought. What they didn't know was that Ironheart's abilities are more than that. He was responsible for the earthquake earlier and gives off another one now, just in case you weren't terrified enough already. Garibaldi's been hot on his trail, though. Earlier he found the stolen ship, traced it back, and figured out that if Ironheart is still here, he'll have rented a room and has been tracking all of the ones that have been rented since that ship's arrival. Garibaldi is committed to this mostly just to get the Psy-Cops out of here. For some reason, he finds them creepy.
Just 50 quarters to search. Good. That should help narrow it down.
Can't imagine why. It's while checking out those rooms that Ironheart has that mind quake, which naturally draws a bit of attention. Well, it's even worse than that. He's erected some kind of mental force field around the whole area, sealing it off, and Sinclair has a conniption over this little inconvenience. As far as Ironheart goes, his mind powers beat the ever-loving shit out of that room. Good luck getting the security deposit back now, buddy. Bester finally fills them in on the experiments, presumably leaving out the part about the abomination against God and nature, but also adds that Ironheart murdered the head researcher on his way out, so he is dangerous. But also, there's concern if anyone else learned about him, they might try to capture him before he can be found and or killed.
It was a calculated risk.
Good old Psi Corps. You guys never cease to amaze me. All the moral fiber of Jack the Ripper.
I just want you to know that's the worst Russian accent I've ever heard. Sinclair's got a rough choice to make. He can help Psi Corps take Ironheart in alive. They have a fail-safe code word in his brain that the two of them can send in to shut him down. Or Sinclair could just kill Ironheart. Or he could do nothing and let Ironheart tear the station apart. It's like the menu at McDonald's. All your options suck. Talia's managed to get through to Ironheart. She was the reason he came here, actually. He wasn't just her trainer at Psi Corps, they were lovers, and he thought maybe being with her might help him keep his shit under control. Obviously, it's not working. There is kind of a built-in flaw with that reasoning, though. I know what will help me calm down: sexual tension! But he explains that Psi Corps has, understandably, reversed its situation. No longer is it an organization set up by the government to keep telepaths in line. It's an organization of telepaths with an uneasy alliance with the government because they have the power to blackmail anybody. And with a power like this, they would be unstoppable.
Jason, there is no more Jason.
Only Zool. He's transforming into something else. And speaking of X-Files stuff, Catherine has finally arrived at Sigma 957 and has a run-in with... with one of those. Besides her close encounter of the sphincter tightening kind, Catherine's ship is in real trouble now. Backup power is gone, main power is mostly depleted, orbit is decaying, she can't reach Babylon 5 on communications, and her insurance is 3 months behind, so she's not going to be covered for this. Back at B5, Talia has found Sinclair and in private fills him in on what's going on and says that Jason will explain what he's going to do to try to avoid the whole destroy the station thing. But he'll only talk to Sinclair, and only if he's alone and unarmed. Considering that he could probably turn them inside out if he wanted to, having more people there or having guns probably wouldn't make a difference. She also fills Sinclair in on the past relationship with Jason.
Do you know what it's like when telepaths make love, Commander?
Of course, I've got all the porn parodies. Sex-Men, What Women Really Want, Wet Dreamscape, Sloppy Seconds Apart. Oh, and my favorite, The Men Who Sleep with Goats. But yeah, he's agreed to go and see Ironheart alone and unarmed, with Talia's assurance that he will be safe.
I look at you, Commander, and I see not a man, but a galaxy of subatomic particles which I can pull apart and rearrange with a casual thought.
Suddenly feeling not so safe. Ironheart explains that this power is too great for anyone to possess. You think? That's why he can't be captured, and that's why he regretfully had to kill the head researcher, to make sure that another like him is not created. All he wants from Sinclair is to leave and Pokemon into his new form, without the Cyclops getting in the way. And naturally that last part is something all the senior staff can get behind. Meanwhile, as Catherine's ship is about to burn up over Sigma 957, a couple of Narn ships show up. Earlier, Jacquard contacted the Narn homeworld and asked that they be sent. And originally, the implication was that they were to hunt her down and kill her if she came to the system, but in reality, they're here to save her life. Although there will probably be a lot of crow to eat over this. Jacquard seems like the kind of guy who likes to rub things in a bit. Back on B5, the Cyclops are not convinced that the clearing of the Zocalo is just a drill. After all, you don't normally have a drill during an actual crisis, right? The school is on fire. Quick, everyone, let's duck and cover. They're battering through his defenses, which means that he's losing control. As in, control over that earthquake power of his, which isn't going to do the station any favors, right? So Sinclair tries to get Bester to stop. And when that fails... Bester doesn't have a crystal ball, but he does have a glass jaw. Kelsey is still in the fight, though, and pulls her gun. Whether to stun or kill, we don't know, because Ironheart destroys her. Probably with his mind powers, although I wouldn't rule out sprinkling holy water on her. Bester finally comes around and shoots him, but that just seems to make things worse. Although Ironheart is so tanked out he can't discombobulate him, settling for just slapping him around a little bit. With that distraction, Sinclair and Talia are able to get him to his ship so he can fly out and evolve into a higher life form, although it is going to get in the way of their sexcapades. So instead, he gives Talia a gift that knocks her to the floor before he flies off to, well, do whatever the hell you do in your pure energy or whatever. I hope the answer comes to you, otherwise there's not going to be a whole lot of ways to fill your free time that aren't evil. That still leaves Bester, so Garibaldi and Sinclair decide to strong-arm him. If he doesn't play ball, they'll report what he did, and while everything is perfectly reasonable as far as Psy-Corps goes, it will all look very bad, and Bester would likely be punished for both failure and allowing this embarrassment to take place. So he's to tell them that the ship exploded, and also that Talia was under Ironheart's control and thus not responsible for her actions. This is all for the official report, of course. Psy-Corps will likely find out anyway, because either Bester will just tell them, or they'll read his mind. He has superiors too, after all, and this is how those at his level act. You can imagine the assholes who are above him in the hierarchy. As for Talia, we discover her gift is telekinesis now, with the ability to screw up episode continuity. I wouldn't harp on this, except it's so incredibly brazen what they do here that I can't believe they did it. They have a shot of the penny with the tail side up. It's the only thing in the scene, so we can't help but pay attention to it. Cut away to Talia's face, and then like 3 seconds later, back to the penny, which again is the only thing in the shot to look at. Now it's head side up. I know it probably seems a little thing, but it is literally the only thing you can notice in the scene. It'd be like having a completely white room with Jacquard standing in the middle of it, cut away for a few seconds, and then cut back with Jacquard now wearing a cowboy hat. You just can't help but notice that it wasn't like that before. In the coda, there's the matter of Catherine, who wants to know what's up with Jacquard. Why he saved her, I mean. The other matters are things that are best left as mysteries. His only explanation is, why not? He and the Narn gain nothing by her death. It would pointlessly leave Sinclair upset. So what's the harm in doing a good deed? This naturally is the first opportunity we have to see that there is more to Jacquard than we've been seeing. He's not the cartoon villain that he appeared to be. And his explanation for what happened to Catherine, comparing it to an ant that he picks up and carefully puts back down again, gives it an experience that it will never comprehend, and thus is the analogy. And it foretells his more spiritual role that he will grow into as the events unfold. I'm giving Mind War a stamp of must-see. Bester is a very important character in the grand scheme of things, and there are several things that are put in motion here that become relevant as the series goes on. This is the first strong episode of the series. It moves quickly, has intriguing ideas, and good guest performances, both by Koenig, who shows that he's capable of doing far more than Chekhov, and William Allen Young, whom you might remember from The Day After. He was the soldier who flees his missile silo only to succumb to radiation sickness. Mind War is the episode that gives the hints of what Babylon 5 can become once everything starts to come together for it.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
Anatomically impossible, Mr. Garibaldi. But you're welcome to try. Anytime. Anywhere.